Hey everyone, how's it going? So now we've seen how we can handle different URLs and show different content depending on which URL they're accessing. What I'm going to do now though is show you how you can incorporate the method of the request and show different content depending on that. So if that doesn't make sense to you, just follow along and I'll explain it all as we go. So what we're going to do is first create a new variable at the top called const method equals request or rec dot method, like this. Now a method will be a get or post depending on what kind of request is being made to the site. So when you access a web page normally, like this for example, this is a get request. When you submit data, often it's a post request, but I'll show you that right now. What we're going to do is we'll create a new route in here. So I'll just copy and paste one of these. So copy this whole else if block, paste it below, and let's do slash I don't know, settings or something like that. Okay, so this will be the settings page, and let's add a bit more HTML in here. What we'll do is we'll do an H1 like this, and then I'll close that as an H1, and we can just put settings page like that. So if I just press Control C, rerun the app, you should see no difference with, we're not using the method but we will see that page. If we go to settings page, we see our H1 tag, great. So let's expand on that now. So we're going to add a form tag after there. Now I know it's not a good way to be writing code all on the same line, but this is just an example that we can learn from, so just bear with me on this. So I've created a form tag and I've closed it off. And then we're also going to go to this form tag and give it an action attribute, which is basically where you're sending the data to. So I'm going to use double quotes there because I'm using single quotes for the string itself. Now we're going to send it to the settings page, actually. Settings like this. Now when you're sending data to the same page, you could just leave this off. By default it will go to the same page, but it's definitely good to explicitly say that because you can avoid mistakes and it's a bit easier to see what's going on, I guess. But anyway, we're saying that when this form's submitted, send the data to this page, so the settings page, and then we're going to say method equals and then post like this. So we're saying submit the data to this page and submit it using post. All right. Again, that'll make sense to you very shortly. But in there, we'll create an input box, which will be a text box. So type equals and then text. And then the very last thing, just before this closing form tag, we're going to do a button. So button like this. And it's worth noting that this code will be attached to this course. So if you did want to download this source code, you can. Let's say you're having a problem copying this out. Just download the code and you can see it all work in there. So I've created a button like this. And I'm just going to add type equals submit to that. Type equals submit, so that it will submit the form. And the very last thing is in between the two button tags, I'm just going to put some text. So press me like that. Okay, so what have we just done? Well, I've created a form, real simple. It's got a text box in there and it's got a button to submit the form. That's it. So press Control C, rerun the app, and when I refresh the page, you should see a form. Great. I put some text in there. It doesn't matter. If I press submit, you see it submits it, and we're still on the settings page. Okay, so great, that's working. Now let's actually use that that form. So what we'll do is we will copy this else if that we just wrote. Let's copy that, paste it underneath, like that. Okay, so now we have two with settings. All right, but the first one we're going to go up to here and change this to and then method equals and then post like that. Oops, I need two equals in there. So double equals, so method equals post, okay? So we're checking that the URL is settings and the method is post. So if it is, we're going to do something different. We're going to we'll get rid of this whole form from this one. So get rid of all of that. So we're left with just the H1, and we can just say form was submitted like that. Okay, so now you'll see, if I go back and show you, I'll just say Control C and then run the app again. If I go back and show you this now, I'll just press enter on the URL to refresh it. So when I haven't submitted data, I'm seeing this form, but if I submit something, I see form was submitted, even though we're still on the settings page. That's because we submitted the data using the post method of the form, And up here we have this route which checks if the method from the request is post. In our case, if it's not post, it's going to be a get request. So it's basically saying if it's not post, no data was submitted, so it's going to show the form as normal. So you can see how we're still on the settings page, and we can see this will be a confirmation message or something like that. And yeah, that's it. But if I refresh the page by going to the URL bar and pressing enter, you'll see it goes back to here. And again, if I submit the form, it goes to here. Now, if I press refresh though, I get this message about confirm form resubmission. That basically means that it's going to submit the form as it just was. So if I press OK on that, we're still on this. That's because by default, forms are resubmitted when you press the refresh button. So if you've just submitted a form in this page, pressing refresh means it's going to resubmit that same data again. That's why if you come back to here and press refresh like that, you're going to get the same thing. So if you want to go back to the settings page, you have to go to the URL bar, press enter, and that hasn't refreshed the page, it's just accessed the settings page again. So there you go, that's a real quick introduction on how we can use different methods to display different content. Again, I will be showing you a much more graceful approach to this going forward, but it's good for you to be exposed to this just so you're aware of kind of how it's working behind the scenes, okay? Like I said, we'll be writing a lot more elegant code than this, but I just wanted to expose you to it.